Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and welcome to today's SecurityBoulevard.com webinar, brought to you by Techstrong. My name is Cody J. Brown, I'm the host of Techstrong Learning. We have an exciting webinar ahead, but first I have just a couple of housekeeping notes. First, today's session is being recorded. So if you miss any of our discussion, or you'd like to rewatch or share with a friend, the on-demand recording will be made available shortly after we conclude our live session. If you have any questions, we want you to send those in using the Q&A tab, which can be found on the right side of your screen. It's also where you're going to find the chat tab, and that's where we want you to engage with us, engage with one another. Just let us know your thoughts throughout today's program. And finally, before we conclude, we will be giving away 4 $25 Amazon gift cards, so be sure to stick around. Our topic today is AI and ML in security, and I'm joined by Bill Reese, Product Marketing Director at Everbridge, and Mike Vizard, Chief Content Officer here at Techstrong Group. It's my pleasure to turn the floor over to Mike to get us kicked off. Mike, go ahead.
All right, thanks, Cody. Hey, Bill, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
I'm well, but as usual, I'm a little bit confused. So let me tell you the source of my confusion, and maybe you can help sort some things out for us. But I feel like initially, when this whole cybersecurity AI thing came out, everybody was talking about how, algorithms will replace security professionals. This will be great. We can have cybersecurity at scale. And then about 3 months later, everybody said, this stuff doesn't work worth a damn, and it's not going to happen whatsoever, and you'll never replace anybody. And now it feels a little bit like we're trying to find something that feels like a middle, but, maybe you can explain to us where we are in this adventure and what's real and what's not.
Sure. So I think that, I think that's exactly right as far as how it happened. Everybody was like, AI, we're going to get it done and it's going to conquer the world. The problem is that you can't account for everything that's going on. The biggest thing about that is with the trend starting to even back out, we're realizing that we need personnel to go in and continue their path, such as, it may be that we're triggering or automating triggers or triggering automations, however you want to look at it. And then for us to go in and say, yes, that is correct. That is a correct algorithm. Yes, that does work. Or no, it doesn't. The problem before was everybody wanted to go in and say, hey, we've got it. We've implemented it, and so we're done. It's not hey, we just turn this on and call it a day. It's a continual process that happens. And if you remember, ML, machine learning. So it's got to learn over a period of time. So I think we're going the right way. I just think that it's going to take some time.
And each environment is slightly unique. So the machine learning algorithms have to take some time. It's like training a new employee, right? I mean, it takes a few months for them to come up to speed and be useful.
True. And sometimes it takes more than just a few months. I've got stories, but we won't go there. And most of them are about me. Sometimes it takes me longer just because it's what it is, right? But yeah, so if you look at it overall and you look at, let's look at, we'll use Siri or Google as an example, or even Alexa, as they learn your processes, learn your patterns, they didn't just immediately get turned on and then all of a sudden they speak the same language you do, right? It's a matter of, oh, hey, you know what, Alexa, I buy this. Oh, okay, well then, we know that in 6 months it's going to take you to use that. Okay, and in the 6 months or 5.5 months, we'll go in and suggest it again. That's not something that just automatically turned on because, as you mentioned, Mike, what you do for you is different than for me. Our environments are different. And we'll use the life comparison, right? Y'all are in the Adirondacks. I'm in the Rocky Mountains, and what's there, and what's here is here. It's totally different from that perspective, even though we share the same baseline of being in the mountains.
All right. See, so Bill and I are in a secret location. We just can't tell you precisely where on the mountains. But anyway,
Exactly.
Do you think as we go along here, we hear a lot about augmenting cybersecurity professionals using algorithms, but I also wonder if it will eventually evolve where we're going to augment the algorithms using humans because the algorithms will take on more of the work. So what is the right balance going to look like as we go forward? I don't think algorithms will ever replace everybody, but there seems to be at least some difference in where we want to put the weight.
And I think that's another one of those areas where we have to look at the balance, right? Is what's good for one company is not necessarily good for another. It really comes down to my belief. What it comes down to is your vertical, right? So if you are in finance, you may have stronger algorithms than you do humans, simply because there's kind of a set pattern. I'm not saying everybody's the same. I'm saying there's a set pattern. If this number is equal to this, then do that, right? It's a if-then statement across the board. However, when you look at some of the other companies out there, especially those that are in SaaS environments, it's a matter of, okay, we've got some standards, but we also have to offset it with the human side of things, because again, you're going in, you're checking, right? You're making sure. You may have a trigger that's been set, but do we have a process in play? A perfect example of that is, okay, we've tried everything that we can automation wise, but it didn't work. So if we went to straight algorithms, then you're still going to have that gap, right? You're still going to have that area in which things don't get done. So you've got to have that balance of, yes, we're doing, and it may be 75% AI, ML, or algorithms, and 25% human. But then it could flip at any given moment based off of what the next bad actor is trying to accomplish.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that whether we're skeptical or not, the current shortage of cybersecurity talent is going to force us down this AI path anyway? We just have to find what the right balance is going to look like. But it's not like something that we can ignore or just put our heads in the sand about. It's here. It's just unevenly distributed.
Oh, I can fully agree with that. I was driving back from an undisclosed location this weekend, and let's just say it was a 3-hour drive, and there was no less than 4 billboards that actually said, want a job in cybersecurity? Call us. Mm-hmm. So there is that shortage for sure. And then again, if you're looking at trying to counteract or work with or help the machines learn, so to speak, there is that pattern that has to happen with human intervention or human interaction, if you want to go that route. If we don't take it serious, right? If we don't say, hey, there needs to be that human side of things, then without sounding like I'm watching Terminator, the machines will take over, and the problem is that they won't necessarily take over the correct way. If your machine learns one way and something happens, but it's still going down this one path, that doesn't mean that it's going to help you with the other path. So there's multiple pieces to that. And unfortunately, it's about changing some of that thought patterns from an AI perspective of, hey, this applies to our organization. Hey, this applies to our team, but this one does not, right? And it may be that one gets put on the back shelf. And we're going from an automation perspective. I'll just use that as an example. So from an automation perspective, you may have that set standard that's going on, but then the other side of it being is that, well, it doesn't just stop there. Everything's growing, from machine updates to software updates to human learning to AI learning or machine learning to other aspects of, I'll just continue using the word bad actors, other aspects of bad actors going, you know what, let's try this because there's a vulnerability here. And if we don't have all of those things going or twirling the same plates at the same time, then what's going to happen is something's going to fall to the wayside. You look at a specific example of each one of us are trying so hard with work-life balance, and if one of them gives way to the other one, things are out of whack. And that's the same with this, right? You've got to make sure you've got that human side. You've got to make sure you've got that automation to help, because if we leave it to one human, and I'm just going to use that example, right? We leave it to one human to control all these things over here, this person or persons are going to get worn out, and there's going to be some things missed. They're going to lose the fact that, hey, this software needed to be updated 2 months ago. Now we've got another update. What happened in the middle of that where we actually got attacked or, some kind of intrusion?
All right. And as we go along, there's no one magic algorithm, right? It's really a collection of algorithms that we're going to have to manage. And the environment that we're applying the algorithms against evolves. So then you start to get some drift in the models that you created because things are different. So do we have to start thinking of ourselves more as the manager of the algorithms more so than just kind of like the servant to the algorithms?
That's a good way to put it, Mike. It really is. And that's kind of what I was talking about a while ago is you've got to go in, you've got to have that human side of things, because you can't just, again, flip a switch, turn on a piece of software and call it a day. There's too many things that are going on behind the scenes. If you are in isolation, and there are companies out there that do this, they're in isolation. They use one software package, and after that, they don't use it, right? That's just the way it goes. I know a couple of companies out there that do that. They don't have to update. They don't worry about these things, but there's one person controlling all of it. Well, that's great until there's a vulnerability that comes in. Somebody clicks on an email attachment, and all of a sudden, their whole system's down. So as things evolve, as people are starting to learn more, from the user perspective or the organization perspective, and we're training more employees, and we're dealing with different employees overall, and their learning capabilities, there's the same thing on the other side. So we'll continue with bad actors, right? The bad actors are going, oh, wait, I'm looking for the list of vulnerabilities. This is the list. Okay, well, how can I exploit those things, and what will give me the most bang for the buck? It could be that they're looking at a specific company, database, financial impact or whatever. You look at Colonial as the example, and what happened there was the fact that they just wanted ransom. Well, the problem was it caused a bigger impact. So now you're going from digital to physical and crossing that bridge as well. And so there's a big impact to determine how are we going to do this. Is there a one-stop shop, so to speak, to go in and install this piece of software and then call it a day? And I think the answer to that's no.
Mm-hmm. The other question I would ask is, I would argue that cybersecurity is a lot like any form of military service. It is long periods of boredom punctuated by sheer terror. If you are looking at the landscape today and you were in the cybersecurity job, would you want to work for somebody who didn't give you access to the best tools and let you have some of this AI stuff to help take that drudgery out of the job? Because frankly, it is stressful, but it's long periods of a lot of scut work too.
So I'm hoping that none of those companies are on the webinar, but if they are, maybe they'll hear this. No, I would not. I would want to make sure that I have access to the things that make me successful, and that's for any job, regardless of cybersecurity or not. I want to be successful in a job, but in a cybersecurity perspective, it is taking that extra step to say, okay, what's gonna help me with this? Is it offloading some of this to a security company? Is it actually going in and hiring 2, 3, 10 different individuals that can go in and help me with those problems? Is it, hey, we've got this new software package that's going to help fill in that gap and then bridge it across the board? So now we're dealing with not just our humans, but the algorithms or automation, if you will. And then from there, we can go in and say, okay, let's make things better. Because even if we don't have the proper tools, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this, but if we don't have access to the proper tools that are going to help us be successful, then we're already set for failure from the start. And then the second part of that is that if we're already set up for a failure and the companies and organizations are not willing to, okay, now we need to invest to make this person successful, that company will fail. And you can mark it down, write it down in your journal, whatever it is, you will see that company will fail in one way, shape, or form.
Right. It's kind of the equivalent of, here, you can go build a road with this shovel, or you can wait for some gear from Caterpillar to go build the road and things will be a lot easier, right?
100%, yeah.
We have some questions starting to pour in from the audience, and I want to encourage everybody to participate. So let's just jump into this first one here. But it's an application security shifting left related question. And I guess what it's trying to get to is we're scanning data, we're pulling in all this stuff from the various tools, but how do we make that actionable for the developers to look at some metrics to determine what is the relative maturity of their applications? So I guess, are we going to see these algorithms help us shift more responsibility for application security further left to the developer because they're going to be more informed, hopefully.
I'm hoping so. Let's start with that. That's just, again, processing that information. So I think the first thing is understanding and in reading the exact words of the question. I think the first part is what do you want to measure, right? How can we be successful? Is there a KPI associated to that? Or is it one of those where, as an organization, you need to know this information in order to start moving things the correct way? And this is probably the better way to put it, what is the answer to the question that will help your developers be successful, right? It's a matter of, if we have, and we'll just throw numbers out there. If you have 50% automation, will that let your developers do their job as opposed to dealing with toil and other things that just the monotonous, let me go in and check security logs and things of that nature? Or is it 25%? Is it 75%? The first question is, how can we make our developers successful or make our team successful if it's not developers? And then the second part of that is, okay, what's it going to take to actually implement that specific KPI and make that happen? So let's put it into real numbers, if you will. So again, it could be the number of algorithms that you have internally. I know with some applications out there, you can create 50, 100, 200. Is that the right number? Well, what are you trying to accomplish? Am I just filling in a gap? Am I going in and using that supplemental of human in cybersecurity and machine learning? Am I going in and saying, no, it doesn't matter. We're still going to have a certain percentage of individuals that do have to go in and check the box. It could be that you get a notification, and that notification says, here's all the things surrounding that specific service. And in that service, these are the things that have happened. Here's the things we've tried. Is there a gap in there that could have been automated? Was it automated? And then on the next part of that is okay, if that didn't work, if that automation didn't work, do we have a human intervention to go in and say, yes, let's do this next time? Or is it one of those of, oh, you know what, we can actually write a code to actually fix that? So it's kind of a loaded question. There is no set metric per se. But it is thinking about the bigger picture of what do you think is going to make your team successful, and then how do we get to point A, right? So point B. So how do we get from point A, team successful, to point B, which is this is now defined as success. So that's kind of the roundabout answer to getting that. I hope that helps kind of fill that in.
So there's no hardcore specific area of success. You have to define that for yourself, and then you want constant improvement from there. So whatever was the definition of success last year has to be improved on this year, because we're DevOps. It's always about continual improvement, right?
Correct, and that's the hard part of things is you may have a competitor, right? If we have a competitor of our company, they may be successful in doing it this way. Well, the problem then comes down to is, what are they doing? Oh, well, they're not going to tell us. It may be that we have to break down some of those walls to say, hey, we need to help each other because both of us are going to be attacked, and that's going to eliminate competition. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's really, really bad. Simply for the fact of, if somebody else has that information or knowledge or process, if you will, if nobody else can use that, yes, it makes them successful. However, it's one of those where, again, if we're to survive this, then it's, okay, we need to do something at least similar to that if we don't have that information itself. So it is the bigger picture, because there is no one-stop application to put in, or one-stop metric to use, or anything of that nature. Each organization has their own information and their own processes, and if you change one of the processes, does it affect one team, 2 teams, 10 teams, the entire organization? So not an easy answer.
Speaking of things that don't have an easy answer, we were talking about shifting left, and the question a lot of people seem to have these days is, am I shifting left all the way to the developer, Or am I more like shifting left to the DevOps teams and I'm putting the guardrails in place in the DevOps platform and that's where the AI will manifest itself, because I don't want stuff to show up in the build and the production environment. But there's all these developers out there and they're uneven in their skills. So we can't, if you have 10 of them, they're not all going to be security experts. So we need to find some other way to kind of balance that. Or is the answer more or less one of these all of the above situations?
No, I like that last option, all of the above. Again, this is one of the, in my opinion, one of the hardest things to discuss these days, simply because everybody is different. If we look at, and I'll use your example, Mike, if we look at who's trained and how they're trained, or who's coming out of college or starting fresh in a position of, working with an organization, this is their first job or something of that nature. Okay, we hired another security personnel, but do they know everything, right? It's that portion that we're looking at. Or are they the developer that we need at a developer level 5 versus the developer level 1? And because of that, there is unfortunately no clear answer to how we're going to go in and do this thing, but we're going to have to fill in the gap a little bit. And I'll use this from another example in life. I have students that I deal with quite often in a personal role. And what happens is they come in and you've got some that have never heard of a specific subject, and you've got some that know it all. And you've got to try to teach the class the same way. Well, it's the same in college. It's the same in any class you take, any workshop you go to. You've got that big paradigm shift, if you will, that when somebody says, hey, I've got to do all this and this is the way it's got to be, where you've got the other person that's going, no, we've already done that, or no, that's not going to work because of this, and this. So there's not the cut dry answer to this, because there is that stretch, or there is that shift of personnel, if you will, that fills that gap. But we do have to have that tolerance level to say, yes, it can be done this way. Yes, we might want to try this, or no, this is not going to work because of this. And I think that goes into the planning stage, which we can get into another time, or go into now.
All right. Well, there's another question from the audience that relates to one of the other questions. So I'm going to go there, but it's kind of technical. But what the audience member is pointing to is that we have all these tools, they generate all this data, and there are these machine learning as a service platforms. The problem seems to be that all the tools generate data in a different format. And how do you normalize all that to a point where you can actually use it to create something that looks like an AI model? Because the AI model needs some sort of normalization of that data to throw the algorithms at it. So it seems like this whole space is a little harder than it looks. So is this, and while we're at it, I'll add on to the end of this. Is this really something that security teams should be doing themselves, or should they just find somebody to do that for them?
I'll start with that last one first, and then we'll go back to the ask question. No, it's probably the easiest way to put that. So let's break it down this way, right? So if your companies are going in, and it kind of goes back to the question of the one-stop shop, right? Should we go in and have it done by somebody else? Let's start with that. The answer could be yes. It really comes down to your organization and the personnel knowledge that's involved, right? You may have somebody that's sitting on another team that they could be the useful part, right? They've got all this information. They've been doing stuff on the side and you didn't know about it, or they've been doing stuff on the side because it's a hobby of theirs or something of that nature. And that's across the board. There's so many people in our company that just flat out, it's like, what, you do what? Wait, why do you do that? Well, because it's fun. Okay. So you can actually utilize that information and knowledge. And I wish I could say I was surprised at the number of people that use cybersecurity as a have to do versus a hobby, because that's where it all started. If you go back to my background, we started in a big classroom, and from a security standpoint, it was, okay, let's see who can hack the box. That was the first thing that everybody did. And from there, it was a matter of, okay, some of those individuals that actually hacked the box, they went on to security companies. So they're, in my opinion, they're geniuses, right? Do we hire those out? How many people do you have on staff? How many people do you want on staff? What's the financial offset of one versus the other? So whether to hire somebody else or not, that's kind of the bigger gap, keeping in mind that that company or group may be a true professional group, right? That's what they do day in, day out, not a, oh, hey, we're a consulting firm that does also cybersecurity. That's not to say there's anything bad about that. So folks, please don't send me emails. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you need to look at their record, right? How are they doing that? What are they doing? Are they using those metrics that we talked about earlier? Are we going in and saying, okay, well, it's 100% personnel versus algorithm, or are we actually taking and saying there's something that we can do in our organization ourselves, or are we totally dependent on them getting the notification, them acting, or their AI acting based off of something that could happen or could not happen? So there's the kind of the big part of it, right? Is understanding, what's the offset from there as far as, do we hire somebody else out, or do we actually do it ourselves? From the other side of things, sometimes it is about having the proper foundation or platform in order to make things happen, right? And that's, unfortunately, sometimes it's looking at all the tools you have. And I think I read something the other day that it's average company has somewhere in the neighborhood of 245 applications as a start. Not that they use them all, but there's 245 applications that are organization wide. Right? You've still got the teams that are using specific tools, especially when it comes to developers. If you look at the entire picture and stepping back and saying, okay, we can better utilize and better be secured by removing this application and putting this one in, or removing these 5 applications and putting this one in, and this foundation will now give us a safer way to do things, a more secure way to do things. That may reduce the number of individuals and or times you have to go to a company to say, hey, can you help us with this problem? Right? It may be that that's their first step is, hey, you got to implement this first before we even come and talk to you. Talked with a company, we'll say 3 weeks ago, because that sounds like a great number. It's within the past month. And that was exactly their thing, is we won't touch anybody until 1, 2, and 3 happens. Then we'll actually go in, have the conversation, sit down with them, because we know at that point they're serious and they're already doing these things to get the ball rolling. Sometimes it is that matter of doing things. Sometimes it is all internal. Again, you've got smart people in your organization. Use them the best you can. And, sometimes it is a matter of, okay, that person's now the go-to for the issues, but we may need to still supplement because these over here are, quote unquote, the professionals.
Right. But
long-winded, but I hope that helps.
But those professionals, they quit, they got vacations, they got things they want to do in their lives. So that's also part of the issue. It's like, to what degree are those guys going to be around? There's a lot of competition for talent, and if they're really smart, it may be hard to hold on to them.
Yeah, exactly. And the one of the things that I've seen that's been very successful is the 2 is 1, 1 is none mentality. And for those of you that have been in the military, you do understand that, as well as many of you outside. But the reality is this, right? So some companies will go in and say, no, don't touch us. We're going to go in and do it our own way, and that's just the way it goes. Some companies go in and say, hey, we want to hire you, but you also have to teach and train our people. And without doing that, without that training, then the situation you just mentioned, Mike, is exactly what's going to happen. It could be that, sure, the key point person is now on vacation. They're off vacationing down in Florida or wherever it is. They may be off to Italy or Milan, but that person is not there. Okay, so then who do we go to? Is there a plan in place for that to happen? Secondly, it goes into the competition, right? Is if that person or if that company were to go, right? Let's just say something happened, they get acquired, whatever it is it may be that we're looking at, here's our backup. We have a plan A, we have a plan B, we have a plan C. That plan C may be that you've got, Mike over there in the corner and flipping a switch at that point. That's okay. That's not a problem. It's making sure that you have that plan in place, because if you don't have a plan, you can go ahead and plan to fail. It's just the way it goes.
All right. They don't let me near switches for very good reasons, but
Same.
Let me ask you this, though. I mean, we've been talking about automation and security forever, and it's been something of a hit or miss proposition. And I would argue that AI is just the next level up of automation that we've been talking about. So it's a natural extension. But if that's the case, why are we so challenged with implementing automation in general? And what do we think is AI going to make that situation any better?
So the first part of that is, what is the challenge we have with implementing AI? And
automation in general, we're not very good at it in the first place. So what makes us think we're going to get better at it in the second place?
So I think the first hesitation is fear of the unknown. You've got a lot of companies out there that are well organized, well efficient, and run, and I'll just say well, right? But there comes that point in time where implementing something that is automated is scary. We've always done it this way. It's the way it's going to continue to be done. Ooh, yeah, no, I don't want to do that. We're going to have a human in there, and that human didn't quite fill that gap. So there becomes that issue to start with. As we grow in that, if we're more open and susceptible to implementing automation, we then have to find out what's going to be beneficial to, again, that vertical, right? That organization, whether again it's finance, or whether it is high tech, or whether it is whatever it is, right? Education is an example. You look at some of the federal government agencies and how they're susceptible. They're now hiring more cybersecurity experts because of that. There comes that point in time of what can we use to fill the gap. I know, and I'll use this example because to me it's one of the better examples I've ever heard. Buddy of mine said it the other week, which was, how many times do you go in and you just allow Amazon to send you stuff as a subscription, or Chewy, or whatever organization out there, we'll just say, company X, to fulfill that subscription because they've got this automated process that comes in and makes sure that you have what you need. I don't have to worry about buying dog food because Chewy sends it to me, period, right? I just make sure that money's in my account, it goes out to Chewy, and they actually deliver to me. So that type of thing is where we start looking at it from a very, very small impact, right? It's that is automation. Hadn't thought about that. Same thing is, especially with today's cars, how many of them send information to your service account, right? Whether it is a Dodge, or whether it is the Dodge Service Center getting information. How many times are we getting that? The automatic mail that comes based off of, hey, there is a security impact to your vehicle. We need to go in and fix that. Bring your car in, right? It's real simple, right? Those are simple automations for us. Now let's take and amplify that. If we look at it from a bigger picture perspective, I don't want to have to worry about these things. Well, if I were, CTO, CIO, whatever, CXO, regardless, I don't want to worry about these things. So how can I do that and not have to worry? From a development perspective, as an example, is how can I implement certain automations or things, we won't call them automations, certain things to make my life simpler, whether it's a script, whether it is, something that's just, oh, hey, you know what, automatically it's going to do this. Those things need to be, and I use need to be very lightly in this situation. There are certain times where I say, no, it has to be, need to be thought about from a perspective of, is it going to make life easy? Is it going to do the job that it needs to do? And overall, it's, making the company safe, making the organization safe, making sure I have a job tomorrow because I don't have to worry about everything going under due to an attack, right? And I use attack, again, as the big picture and things that happen. So I think there's a lot of different things that we have to look at not just from a simple automation perspective, but a bigger automation perspective of how it's going to help just the team, but the entire organization to be successful.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that I have heard historically has been a complaint about automation in general, and I think AI might make it worse initially, is the volume of false positives just goes off the charts initially, and people have a hard time kind of absorbing that, and they hate false positives to begin with. But that may just be part of the process of learning, right? And you kind of have to accept that. But how do I kind of navigate that automation in AI when that false positive number starts to go haywire and everybody stops paying attention to the alerts?
And I'll give you the perfect example again, in my opinion. I can't tell you how many times I go searching for something on YouTube and I'll get an ad that just doesn't apply. Well, how that happens is that, number one, all the things that you're watching, it may be something, oh, you know what, I went over here and I watched one video on this. Well, now all of a sudden I'm getting all these ads. As we look at what happens, I go in and say, no, I don't want to ever see these ads again because it doesn't really apply. I was just looking for some research or something of that nature. So there is that time, that learning that has to happen because, again, ML, machine learning has to happen in order for us to actually implement anything. So you're going to get that a false positive as an example, simply because if you look at it from a human perspective, how many times, especially for your parents, how many times have your kids come in and said, hey, I did this, and you're like, yeah, it's not the way I would have done it. Okay, great. Can you go do this? That is the same type of thing that we're looking at. The machine has to go in and learn, right? And it's going to come in and say, hey, I got this. And you're like, no, can you change it this way? Hey, I've got this. Can you change it that way? Or maybe it is, that employee doing the same thing, right? They come in and say, okay, I've delivered based off of what you told me. That's not what we want. Or that's kind of what we want, but can you take it in this direction? So there's a whole learning perspective, not just from machines overall, but you look at it from the bigger picture, right? You do that with humans. Machines are not that smart yet, simply because they have to learn what you're wanting them to do. With a human, what are you wanting them to do? If I go in and teach somebody, it's what is the outcome that has to happen before we get to the next step? Well, that is that false flag. That is that false information, if you will, false trend, however you want to look at it. It is that bit of information that comes back and you go, yeah, that's not quite what I'm looking for. And so you stick up both hands and you go, hey, we need to change it this way, right? Is there a switch that you can flip? Is there a trigger that needs to be adjusted? Is there a tool or tool set that needs to be modified in one way, shape, or form? Or is that part of the human intervention that goes in and says, hey, this is the way that you said we needed to do it based off of the instructions, and you say, yeah, got it, but you need to turn it this way. That actually happened to me not too long ago here at Everbridge, where it was one of those where they're like, here's the information. Great. We gave them what they needed, and they went, oh, that's not it. We need to turn it this way. Oh, well, that would have been helpful to know about, a week ago. But that's the way things go, right? So it's not just the humans that have to deal with that, but it's also the machines that have to learn as well, because without that automation is going to continue going down that one path, and you're going to get all this wrong information until it starts learning the way you want it to do, or teach it, if you will.
There you go. My simpler analysis of that is I'm a lifelong Yankee fan, and I will not click on Red Sox stuff because then I get all this Red Sox false positive propaganda in my feed, right? That's how it works.
Fair enough.
Do you think also that as we shift to AI and we are collecting all this data and throwing more advanced analytics, that this will accelerate the shift to throwing everything from a management perspective into the cloud, because we do need a lot of compute resources to analyze that data? And I just don't think the average organization has the ability to really build and deploy AI models in an on-premises environment. There's just they won't have enough data to make it work. So will that just shift everything to the cloud?
I I think, again, that depends on pillar or vertical, if you will, not pillar. Yes is the short. Let's start with that one. Yes is the short answer. Simply because you look at the processing power, you look at the amount of data that's available. I mean, I put pictures on my phone, but I go in and I buy more data because I want it to be up there so I can access it at any given point in time. I'm an Apple fan. That's just the way it goes. So yes, I will pay that to make sure that I have the ability to get the information I need when I want it. So let's change it to the other direction, right? Are we going to do that from an organizational perspective? If you look at digital transformation overall, there is more and more movement towards cloud data storage and applications, simply because that processing power is easier, it's simpler, it's cheaper than having to go in and build that, we'll just say server farm in-house, right? So there's the first part of that. The second is that we look at those organizations that do house that data, house the software, if you will. How much of that is actually being spread across different organizations, so they can use some of that trending that happens? That's not to say that your data is being shared with another organization, but if the company then comes back and says, "Hey, wait a minute, I've got access to this, and this," and if I look at the trend across the board, they're doing this over here. Me as a host company will go in and say, we might need to turn on that for this organization. Let's have a conversation to make sure that that's what needs to be done. So there's not just a matter of the fact that it could be cheaper, or the fact that you don't have to deal with it from a processing perspective, or housing that big storeroom of servers and things like that, or have your own server farm. But it's also about the knowledge that they have, and being able to share that information across the board to not just you. Maybe it's organization wide, maybe it's team wide, maybe it is only a specific group, maybe it is fill in the blank. But being able to have that information, those trends that we're talking about across the board, can be implemented to 1 to 10 different groups, in addition to it being cheaper to actually house that information there. So it becomes a very easy, I'll say very easy decision to make at that point of, hey, I can benefit by this, and this.
Let me shift the gear here, though. But to what degree do you think the bad guys are using AI and ML these days? Or are they still using, the same basic processes as everybody else was for years? Or have they invested in this technology as well?
I will start with they're investing in this technology as well. As things become more online, and I use that as a loose term, as things become more online, they're looking again for that vulnerability. They're looking for that hole in the system, if you will, to be able to go in and exploit it. I was trying to think of the right word. So when we look at, are they using it? If it makes their life easy, yes. If they can get a fast return on investment, yes. I think by using automation, if they're using any type of automation, if they're using any type of machine learning, then yes, because investment. You look at, again, I don't want to disclose too much information because this is not shareable, if you will, but they're out there that go in and they say, how fast can we go in and patch up all of our systems? Well, on the other side of that, you've got the bad actors, if you will, that are going in and saying, hey, wait a minute, if we can exploit this one this quick, we'll get $10 million. If we can exploit this one this quick, we'll get $2 million. Let me go in, that's $12 million immediately without having to think about it. That's just a flip of the switch. As opposed to, and I'll go back to when I was doing security, as opposed to sitting there writing programs day in and day out. I'm going to use what's going to be beneficial to me, especially to get that return on investment a lot faster.
Do you think, therefore, we're kind of, like it or not, involved in an AI arms race? I mean, they invest, we have to invest, and if we don't keep pace, we're going to suffer the consequences. It's just the cost of doing business now.
Unfortunately, yes. somebody said it best the other day is the bad actors are now our competition. It's not just about another organization. It's not just about another company out there. Somebody, and I'll continue to go back to banking as the perfect example of this, is it's not just about another bank opening up and now you've got Reese Bank on the corner of 5th and Main. It's a matter of, oh, wait, that's not my competition. Making sure that my data is safe is the competition, because the competition, which is the bad actors, will try to come and take my stuff. That's the quickest, easiest way to look at it is, yes, it's as long as it's ones and zeros, sure. If it's brick and mortar and that's all you've got, shouldn't, okay, mark that, shouldn't be an issue, but it could be.
You know, we talked about being up in the mountains, and there's an old joke about, you know, when you encounter a bear, you just have to be faster than the other guy. But in security, that's not the case anymore, right? Because there are now thousands of bears running around, and there isn't this idea that somehow or other that they're just going to take down the guy who has less defenses than you are. They're just going to take everybody down.
Agree, and I'm with you. I love that analogy. The biggest perspective of that, looking at it from again that bigger picture perspective, we used to do, and some of you may remember, what's called war dialing. How many times do you get a call during the middle of the day that's nothing but a salesperson or marketing person saying, hey, would you buy this or will you do this, right? War dialing is a matter of going in and saying, I've got 100 calls. That machine is going to continue to dial those numbers and make sure that we've got somebody on our side to go in and talk to the person on the other side. I got a call the other day. I can't tell you how bad it took me off. It's, please hold for an important message. And out of curiosity, I did. Person's like, hey, do you know it's your car insurance? I'm like, what? No, my car insurance is fine. My company sends me emails. I know what's going on. So it was that type of thing, right? That's war dialing. The same perspective when you look at this is that you've got somebody that's running, and we'll say, 100 automations to go and spider out into different organizations. You've got one that's dealing with federal. You've got one that their specialty is banking. They got one, and when I say one, we're talking about automations. One that's dealing with higher education. One that's dealing with fill in the blank. It's whatever they can take money, or however they can take money, whether it is ransomware, whether it is Trojan, whether it is whatever it is. There's somebody going in and hitting them all at the same time. So as we look at that, that's one of those areas where they're going to continue to use, they're going to continue to get faster, they're going to continue to hit everything they can to try to lock you out. How many times do you get an email that says, oh yeah, your order went through and it's $349 for a Dell laptop, that you're like, well, wait, I didn't order a Dell laptop. And then what's the next step? Do you ignore it? Do you block it? Or do you pick up the phone and go, no, I didn't order this. They got you. That's what happens across the board is they're throwing the net out to see what they can catch, and whatever they can catch is what they take, and they hope they get money out of it.
I don't know. My father-in-law takes those calls. He's retired, basically talks to somebody for 5 or 10 minutes, and then he says, hold on, I'll be right back. And then he leaves the phone there, and he goes, if they're still there in a half an hour, he laughs. But, that's him. We do have a question here from the audience, and it kind of goes to the heart of some of the conversation. It's like, well, is machine learning really AI, or are we just conflating a lot of terminologies? And is there some way to kind of step back here and distinguish ML from AI a little bit and maybe do the industry a service by recentering this conversation? Is that doable?
I think so. We've got companies out there that are throwing standards at us, which is great. At least we have a baseline to go from. And if you look at, and I'll use one analyst firm as an example, they center AI ML in 3 different areas, right? If any one of those areas are met, then that's considered AI ML. The way I talk to my customers, the way that we as a company talk to our customers, it's not about AI ML. Yeah, those are buzzwords. That's great. However, it is that what makes your life easier, what automation, and then we can define automation as, whatever fits the blank, right? I think that's where we've kind of, like you said, conflated everything. It's, oh, well, if it's not AI ML, I'm not buying it. Well, okay, what exactly is that AI ML doing? Is it actually helping you on a regular basis, or does it just do this one thing and therefore it qualifies? That's where we have to, and I think the last part of that was recenter that discussion. Go in and find out, okay, what are we trying to accomplish? And then do we accomplish it with automation, right? Do we accomplish it automatically, if you want to use that word instead? And then at that point, you can go in and say, okay, this by definition is AI or ML, but we know for a fact that it is an automation thing, regardless of what it is, regardless if it's a trigger, regardless if it's an automated tool that goes in and says, once this happens, then do this, regardless, right? Key in the ignition, turn, go, that's the way it goes. So if we get to that level of automation, I think that's going to best recenter everything. There will continue to be buzzwords. There will continue to be analysts out there that are giving us those new buzzwords, the things to look at for the next year, the next century, whatever it is. And because of that, we've got companies out there that try to fit that model, whether it is, a section of it or whether it's the entire picture. You have to look at it that way. Unfortunately, from the bigger picture, because that's where that information comes from for all organizations. And I'll just go ahead and say Everbridge as well. We get that information from an analyst and then go, okay, let's take a step back. What does that mean? How does that apply to our customers? And then where are we going to go from there?
Just remember, those analysts get paid bonuses for inventing those little terms. So, they have an incentive for doing that in a way that may or may not be helpful.
Yeah.
When you think about this right now, can we win the cybersecurity war, or is it just a matter of minimizing our losses? Or do you think as AI evolves, maybe it'll become easier to go on the offensive and, my butt can kick your butt?
Right. Well, I think, and again, Mike, the biggest picture of this is taking that step backwards, right? Is do we have a plan in place? If we don't have a plan, then again, you can plan to fail. It's just the way it's going to happen. I think if we have a plan in place to deal with, we'll say 75% of whatever's out there existing, and I have to use that word existing because tomorrow's going to change, the next day is going to change, and things of that nature. I think if we go ahead and plan for that existing 75%, great. If we have that plan in place and then are prepared to move towards the next thing, whatever that new automation is or whatever that next bad actor is trying to accomplish, I think we will then be ready and start going on the offensive. You look at, and we'll use the bears as the example, right? Or we can use insurance, however you want to look at it. The bears is the example where we are prepared for a bear. I am 100% planning to have a bear come up in the yard. That's the plan, right? I know. Okay, well, then what am I going to do? Okay, I have to have this in place. I have to have this in place. What if there's two bears? Oh, didn't quite encounter that or didn't think about that. We need to actually add that as an additional step. It's the same thing with this, right? We've got this plan. Fantastic. But we have to still have that flexibility to go in and adjust so that we can be prepared for the next big thing. We didn't look at digital and physical at the same time until a couple of bad actors went in and said, hey, this is the way we're going to do things. And they started attacking those different organizations. Everybody stepped back and went, oh, crap. We didn't think about that. It was either physical or digital. It wasn't the combination of both. And so I will tell you, everybody started scurrying because they weren't ready for that. Now you've got companies out there that said, okay, again, we're now 75% prepared with the flexibility to go in and adapt to the new thing, whatever it is. So I think that's the only way we're going to win. If we stay stagnant, not going to happen.
Do you think as we go along that, I would argue we make it too easy for the attacks that are made today, and they're not very complicated or sophisticated. They're just kind of like pounding on the fundamentals. And maybe someday, we'll be able to detect a ransomware attack using algorithms and shut it down before it gets going. Do you think that, part of this issue is we just make it too simple for these attacks to be launched, and AI will knock out a large swath of these kind of really low-level rudimentary nuisance attacks.
Yes, I think that I think we do make it too easy. I know there are organizations out there that they've got a team or teams specializing in defense. I know there are companies out there that utilize specific software for that defense. But what happens is sometimes they get the information too late. It may be, and I'm trying to use it as generic as I can get it. It may be that we have this vulnerability and nobody got patched or nobody put a patch in, but with that individual that's sitting over there or an automation that says, let me run this. Is there a fresh patch? Let me go out and check. Microsoft is the example. Oh yeah, we've got all the patches in, or crap, we forgot one of the security patches. We need to do that automatically, quickly, because we have opened up that vulnerability. For every organization out there, for every operating system out there, whether it is Linux-based, whether it is Microsoft, whether it is Apple-based, MacBooks, whatever you want to call them, regardless of what it is, there is somebody trying to hack that thing, and they're trying to do it, again, it goes back to that ROI discussion we had earlier. They're trying to do it the quickest, easiest, fastest way to get their money out of it. If they can find a vulnerability from 2 cycles back or 2 patches back, hey, man, that's the easiest way to do it. I don't have to worry about stressing to try to go over here. So, yes, we do make it too easy, but if we stay on top of it, it goes back to the having teams in place, being able to that nature. I think.
All right, we got a couple of minutes left. What's your best advice to folks as far as AI is concerned? What should they be doing? What should they be playing with? Where should they start?
Yeah, I think the first place to start, and I'll just say, step one, plan. If you do not have a plan in place, and you've heard me say it several times throughout this, if you don't have a plan in place, you go ahead and plan to fail. The second is what are we trying to accomplish? Are we trying to let our developers do their job, create new innovations and things of that nature, or are we letting them go in and do all the patching and things of that nature? Sometimes it's both, and I get that. But, okay, if we are measuring that, what is the KPI? What are we trying to get out of that? What metrics are we trying to get back? And then to circle it all back in, it's not just about that plan, but it's about putting it in place. If we don't put it in place, it's not going to happen.
All right. Once again, we are planning to fail. Hey, Bill, thanks for sharing your knowledge and insight.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to kick it back to Cody, who's going to tell us who our winners are and some other important parting information.
Great. Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Mike. I'd like to remind all of our audience that this session was recorded. So following this webinar, you should be receiving an email with a link to access the recording on demand. You can also find it living on the Security Boulevard website at securityboulevard.com/webinars, and be sure to look in the on-demand section. So onto those 4 gift cards. Our first winner is Jignesh P. Our second winner is Keston B. Our third winner is Manikim K. And our fourth and final winner is Kazuhiro N. So to the 4 of you, congratulations. Please keep an eye on your inbox to claim that gift card. But if you don't happen to see that email, just check your spam folder. Bill, Mike, thank you once again for taking the time to join us. And I would also like to thank our audience for joining us as well. To our audience, we ask for 1 extra moment of your time to fill out a brief post-webinar survey that should pop up on your screen here in just a moment. But otherwise, we do hope to see you at an upcoming Techstrong Learning workshop or webinar. Everyone, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Cody.
See you guys.
Thanks, Mike.